All right, so we've built a couple of small projects on our local machine. Now I want to start looking at how to actually get a website online. And we talked a little bit about this in the beginning of the course. You're usually going to register a domain name and then buy some kind of hosting account, although many hosting accounts do include a free domain name. So in this video, I just want to go over the different types of hosting there are, as well as the pricing points. So these are the most common types of hosting. We have shared hosting, VPS, which is a virtual private server, dedicated server, reseller hosting, cloud hosting, and static hosting. So we're going to go over each of these and talk about what they are. So aside from free tiers of static hosting, which I'll get to in a bit, shared hosting is definitely the cheapest, ranging from around $3 to $15 per month, although a lot of the times you'll have to pay by the year, so it'll be around $70, $70 to $100 a year, which isn't bad. And shared hosting means that you get one of many accounts on the same server and on the same operating system environment. And this is suitable for most small websites, so anything that we build in this course would be just fine on a shared host in terms of data and size. However, they usually restrict bandwidth, so if you have a site where you're expecting, tens of thousands of users every day, it's probably not the best thing. You probably want to go with something of a higher tier. But if it's some local business like a flower shop or something like that, in most cases it's going to be fine. I built websites for local businesses for a long time, and I would say 90% of them used a shared web host. So this is definitely where you're going to want to start. I should say probably where you're going to start, or maybe static hosting, which I'll get to in a little bit. And this is what we'll be doing in this section. We're going to set up a shared host account with InMotion, which is a great service, great company that I've used for years. Now, most of these types of accounts are managed, and they include email servers, so you'll be able to set up your email with your domain name. You get a control panel to view analytics, create FTP accounts so you can upload files. You can even create databases. A lot of them come with one-click installs for things like WordPress. So shared hosting is great for small local businesses, and like I said, I suggest InMotion, but there's also HostGator, Bluehost. These are some other companies that I've worked with that are really good as well. All right, so next up we have VPS, or Virtual Private Server, and this is a step up from shared hosting. You're going to get it's basically an account that's on a physical machine, but it's a virtualized environment. Okay, so with shared hosting, you have the same environment, you just have different accounts. On a VPS, you have less people on the same server, and they're all their own environment, so it's more secure. It's less prone to issues from other accounts, things like that. You also get much more access. With a shared account, you usually can't log in through SSH or through the shell as a root user, and with a VPS, you have much more control. You can log in as root, you can install things, and these usually range from about $20 to $100 per month. And obviously different packages have different disk space and bandwidth restrictions, just like a shared host. A VPS is great if you plan on having more than one website. You can actually create your own smaller shared accounts with their own separate control panels, and you could even sell shared accounts, but a reseller is better for that, which I'll talk about next. So a reseller account is very similar to a VPS, except it's more geared towards reselling shared hosting to third parties. So you'll basically get a panel where you can create and terminate shared accounts, and you can sell those to users on your website. And most reseller packages come bundled with a piece of software called WHCMS, which is used for billing. You can actually make it so when a user pays through the system, which you can integrate into your website, a new account gets set up on your reseller server. Okay, and then they'll get sent an email and they'll be able to log in and all this. I actually did this for about 3 or 4 years when I had my web dev company, but I wouldn't suggest doing it unless you really know what you're doing. You need to really know about things like DNS and DevOps and stuff like that. All right, so a dedicated server is an actual physical machine sitting in a data center that you rent out. So as opposed to just basically having an account on a server with other people. You actually not own but rent the machine, and these are definitely the most expensive. They range anywhere from 100, which is very cheap. You're lucky to find a dedicated server for $100, to 400 and even more than that. Now, these are great for large sites and applications that are going to have tons of users. You get full freedom. You can usually install whatever operating system you want, stuff like that. Most likely Linux. Linux rules the hosting world, so most of the time your servers will run Linux, some distribution of Linux. The downside is they're much harder to manage, and in most cases you'll probably have like a designated DevOps person on a team managing a dedicated server. All right, so next is cloud hosting, and this is more for web applications, more so than just static websites. So if you build something like a social network or an e-commerce site using a language like Python, PHP, or something like Node.js, cloud hosting is great for that. It's basically having multiple servers working together, and it's extremely powerful and scalable. DigitalOcean is one of my favorite providers for this. The downside is you have to know a lot to manage cloud hosting. You need to know a bunch of Linux terminal commands. You need to know how to set up things like Nginx servers, firewalls, and it gets really advanced and way beyond what we're doing in this course. All right, so lastly we have static hosting, which is fairly new, and a good example of this is Netlify and GitHub Pages. We're actually going to be deploying to Netlify a little later, which is a fantastic service. They offer hosting, but they also have additional features like serverless functions if you want to add some dynamic functionality, and also contact form submission, which is really cool. And they're used for both front-end applications and static websites, including sites that want to have back-end services. Netlify and GitHub Pages both have free tiers, so if you just want to host your site without having the bells and whistles of a control panel, email and all that, you can do that for free. But if you could still have email on that domain. You'll just most likely have to have it connected to some other service, some kind of email service. Now, you will need to know at least the basics of Git, which is a version control system to deploy to either Netlify or GitHub Pages. But we're going to do that later. I'm going to teach you some of the basic commands, and all right, guys, so we're going to deploy our site to a shared host with InMotion Hosting, which is a service that I've used for a long time. I'm actually going to create a new account. They're not paying me a dime for this. However, I do have an affiliate link that I'll attach in a document to this lecture. So if you are going to buy a package, I'd appreciate it if you could use that link. All right, so I'm actually going to go ahead and set up an account just out of pocket just to demonstrate this to you. So as you can see, there's different types of hosting they offer. Many of them are the types we've talked about. Now, their shared hosting plans are going to be the business hosting. You'll notice with different companies, they'll call it different things. They also have WordPress hosting, which is basically the business hosting or shared hosting, but with WordPress already pre-configured. WordPress is actually a content management system, and it might be something worth looking into after this course. They also have VPS hosting, dedicated servers, reseller hosting. We're going to go ahead and click on Learn More for business hosting. So as you can see, if you choose any type of hosting, they're going to have additional packages with different price points. And these prices here are actually, if you pay for 2 years in advance, $3.99. You'll see 1 year is $4.99. This one is 1 year, $6.99. So very rarely, if ever, are you going to find a hosting company that allows you to actually pay $3.99 month by month. Usually you have to pay by year, by 2 years. Sometimes they'll allow 6 months. It really depends on the company. But for now, we're going to choose, or I'm going to choose the cheapest version here for 1 year. Now, the difference between these, you can see, is the number of websites. Okay, so you can have different amounts of websites. The disk space and bandwidth is unlimited on all of these, but you have to be careful with shared hosting. Even though it says unlimited, if you start to slow the server down, you start to slow down resources, they're either going to throttle you or they're going to ask you to bump up your package. If you have a website that has a ton of users, or it's really big, or big application, something like that, then you're going to want to use a VPS or dedicated server or something like that. But like I said, most small business websites, these are absolutely fine. I would probably say go with the middle tier, but since I'm just doing this for the course, I'm going to choose the cheapest one available, which is going to be 1 year for $4.99 per month, which should come to about $60 a year. Yeah. Now, if you want an SSL certificate, they do offer free SSLs, but you do have to have a dedicated IP for that, which is an additional $4 a month, which is $48. Okay, so they're going to charge you an extra $48 if you want a dedicated IP and an SSL. I'm not going to choose that, but just know that you will need to if you want SSL. And then here, this is for just like a quick starter one-page website for $100. Obviously, we don't want that. And then if we want to install WordPress or BoldGrid, we could do that, but we're not going to do that either. So let's click Continue, and now it's going to ask about a domain. Now, with InMotion, you can purchase a domain through them. I think it's $14.99 per year. Or if you have your own, you could choose this option here, enter your domain, and then you would have to go wherever you registered that domain and just update what's called name servers to point to your InMotion hosting account. For just registering domains, I actually suggest Namecheap.com. I'll put an affiliate link for Namecheap in the document as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and purchase a new domain here. So I'm going to do Edge Ledger, and I believe .com is already taken, but .net is not. So I'm going to just choose edgeledger.net as my domain. Okay, so as you can see, it's available. So I'm going to add it to my cart. And then over here, you can see my total is $84.86. That's for the entire year for the domain and for the hosting. And let's see, we'll just continue here. Actually, I'm going to remove the domain privacy. What that means is if someone tries to do a whois check on your domain, they won't be able to see your, like, the email address you used and stuff like that. But I don't care about that, so I'll delete that. And then over here, I am a returning customer, but I want to create a whole new identity for this just because this is only for the course. So I'll go ahead and put an email address in here. And continue. And then it's probably going to take me to a page where I have to enter my credit card information and stuff like that. Yeah, all my information. So what I'm going to do is pause the video. I'm going to fill all this out, and then I'll come back. All right, so I filled out all my information. It gave me a summary up here. So now I just need to click agree and check out. Okay, so now it says welcome to InMotion Hosting, order details, and down here it's going to ask if we're creating a new website or transferring an existing website. So we're going to go ahead and click creating a new website. And they also ask if you want a one-on-one call from a new account specialist, so someone that can actually call you and help you out if you need help, which I think is really cool, but obviously we're going to click no thanks. And then here they have really good documentation and support for, you know, the control panel, setting up FTP accounts and stuff like that, and you can get custom articles sent to you. But I'm not going to check any of these, so we'll just leave them all blank. Well, I guess we have to check at least one. So we'll do, let's do getting started. Okay, so it's going to process that. Now we should have an email that has information on how to access our cPanel, our control panel, and stuff like that. So I'm going to just pause the video and pull up that email. All right, so this is the email that you'll get. Welcome to InMotion Hosting, and it's going to say get started with your account management panel, also called AMP. So your login is going to be your email address, and then it says to get started, set your password here. So we're going to go ahead and click that. We're going to set a password. So actually, let me use something different here. All right, so that might be too simple. I'm going to be canceling this account anyways. All right, so this is your AMP panel, and this is basically InMotion's customer panel. You can update your contact information, your credit card info. If you have trouble, you can send in a support ticket, and then down here you have your link to cPanel, which is basically your web hosting control panel. And many different companies use cPanel. It's the most popular type of control panel for managed hosting. You can also check your email from here, but you can also do that from cPanel. You can install software like WordPress, stuff like that. You can manage your SSL certificates. So it's basically your client panel. So let's go ahead and click on cPanel, and that should open up. And let's just close this up. So this is your control panel for basically your website, your hosting account. And you'll see there's different sections, preferences. We have a lot of the stuff that we have in the AMP panel, like contact information. And to get back to AMP, you can click here, or you can go click home. There's also links up here to get to different sections. But email, you have your email accounts. You can set up your forwarders, your email routing. You have spam filtering, stuff like that. Domains, if you wanted to add another domain. If you want to create redirects, you can do that from here. If you want to install applications on your website like WordPress, which is a blog/CMS content management system. You also have like shopping carts, OpenCart, Press2Shop. These are open source shopping carts that you can install and use on your website. You have software, so PHP packages, stuff like that. Files. FTP accounts, we're going to get into that because we need a way to actually upload our files to our site. And databases, if you get into application development, you'll probably want to get into like MySQL or Postgres. These are relational databases, and these are included as well. Metrics, if you want to look at analytics, your website visitors, and so on. Security, you can block certain IP addresses. You do have shell access, which means you can log in through the terminal into your account and do different things. And advanced, we have things like cron jobs, but that's way beyond this course. All right, and on the right side, I mean, I have mine blurred out just because there's some sensitive information, but it has all your stats and stuff like that, the number of FTP accounts you use and email accounts and so on. So in the next video, before we start to deploy our website, I want to show you how to create email accounts as well as FTP accounts. All right, guys, so before we go ahead and create an FTP account and upload our website, I want to show you how to create an email account and also how to create an email forwarder in case you want to send your email to something like Gmail. So you want to go to your cPanel and click on email accounts. And it's very simple, very self-explanatory. We have one domain on this account, which is edgeledger.net. So let's say we want to create brad@edgeledger.net as an email address, and we'll put a password in here. You can also choose to generate a password. Okay, and then you can choose a quota. So if you have employees and you don't want their emails to take up so much room on the server, you can limit it, or you can do unlimited. You can also choose to send a welcome email with client configuration instructions. So if you're if you have a company and you use like Outlook or something like that, or Gmail, you can send them the account configuration stuff, but we're not going to do that. So let's click create account, and we get success. If we click this view right here, it'll show us the email account. Also, if we go back out to cPanel and we click on email accounts, we'll see it here as well. Now, to check your email, you can do that right from cPanel by just checking off or clicking Access Webmail. And it's basically going to ask us which default application we want to use, and they're all pretty much the same. I would suggest using something like Gmail, just forwarding all your email there, and then within the Gmail settings you can actually make it so you can send email from your account as well. If you just look on the Google documentation, you can find out how to do that. So I usually choose Squirrel Mail if I do use this. You're probably going to get a welcome page where you need to put in your name and stuff like that, and then just click submit. And then this is the inbox here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off screen onto my Gmail account, and I'm going to send an email to brad@edgeledger.net just to make sure that it works. Okay, so say brad@edgeledger.net, and I'll just say hello, and it works. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and send. And let's reload our page here, and it might take a couple seconds. Let's check inbox. Should be here any minute or any second. There it is. All right, so from Brad Traversy, if we go to hello, you can see that the message is it works, and I just put hello in the subject. So this isn't the best looking interface. So like I said, I would probably use Gmail or something. So to add a forwarder, we can go back to cPanel. Let's close that up. And let's go home and then forwarders. And let's say add forwarder. So the address we want to forward is Brad. And the domain, we only have one domain, which is edgeledger.net. So it's going to use that email address. And I'm going to forward it to techguyinfo@gmail.com. All right, so we'll say add forwarder. And now anything that's sent to brad@edgeledger.net is also going to go to techguyinfo.com. Okay. Now, if you're not going to use something like Gmail, if you're going to use your cPanel email, there's a shorter way to get to your inbox rather than logging into cPanel, clicking on email account, searching for it. What you can do is you can go to your domain. So we can go to edgeledger.net and then just /webmail. Okay, so it's going to take us to this login right here, and you can log in with your email address and password. And there we go. And you can, if you don't want to show the screen every time, you can choose to set squirrel mail or any of these as your default. That way it just automatically goes right into your inbox. Okay, so that's just a much easier way to get to your inbox. So you can also set up things like autoresponders. So if you're out of the office, you can do that. Filters, spam filtering. I'm not going to go through all this. It's out of the scope of the course, but I just wanted to show you how to get your email set up. All right, so in the next video, we're going to set up an FTP account. I'm going to show you how to use something called FileZilla so that we can actually upload our website to edgeledger.net. All right, so now it's time to actually upload our website. So if we go to our domain name, obviously yours is different, but mine is edgeledger.net. We're just going to see the InMotion just placeholder. So we obviously want to replace this with the website that we built. So we're going to go down to where it says Files, and we want to click on FTP accounts. Okay, FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. And it's an internet protocol that's used for file transfer. I guess that's the easiest way I can put it. And right here we can put in, just like with the email accounts, any name we want. I'm just going to do Brad, and it's going to be at edgeledger.net. Yours will be different, obviously. And then a password. So I'll just put in a password here. And this is really important. So the directory by default, it's going to put it into this FTP account will go to just a separate folder called Brad, which is not very useful. We want to actually go to the root of the website so that we can access the root page here. So we're going to just clear all of this out like that. And you can also set a quota if you want, an upload quota, but we're just going to keep unlimited. And then let's click Create FTP account, and now that's been created. Now to access our file, we need an FTP client, and I would highly recommend FileZilla. So if we just search for FileZilla, it's going to be this right here, filezillaproject.org, and you want to make sure you get the client, not the server. The server is if you want to have your own FTP server. So you just want to click download here and download, and it's for Mac, Windows, Linux. It's cross-platform. So just grab that. Once it's installed, you can open it up. I already have it installed, so I'm just going to open it up here, and you're going to see something like this. And over here on this side is your local machine. As you can see, it's showing my desktop right here. These are the folders I have on my desktop, which includes the Edge Ledger website that we built. So if I go in there, you'll see our HTML file, our CSS, image, JavaScript. DS Store is just a hidden Mac file, so don't worry about that. If you're on Windows, you won't even have that. But what we're going to do now is log in to our website through FTP. So up here in the host, we want to put our domain name. So I'm going to use edgeledger.net. And then the username is going to be whatever your FTP account is. Mine is Brad at edgeledger.net. And then the password that we used, what was it? And then port, you can leave that blank. The default port for FTP is 21, but if you leave it blank, it's still going to use 21. So we don't need to put it in. And then quick connect. And you might get a box that says like authorize or something the first time you try to log in. Just say OK or authorize or whatever. Now what we're looking at here is the root of our entire server, or I should say our account. And the place where you want to go to for your website is public HTML. Okay, this public underscore HTML. This is our actual website. So if we go into there, what we're going to see is a couple files and the default .htm. Okay, so it can be HTML or HTM. That is the landing page that we see, the coming soon page. So what we want to do is delete everything in here. We're just going to delete all of this. So we'll say yes to the confirmation, and then if I go back to edgeledger.net and reload, we're just going to see this blank index of. Okay, so there's no files here. So we want to go to FileZilla and just bring all of our website files, not the DS Store, but our website files, right over. We can just drag and drop, and it's simply going to upload them to our host. Okay, so it's all done. It says there's only a couple files, so it doesn't take long. And then if we go back to our domain and reload, there's our website. Okay, so our website is now live on the internet. And it's easy as that. Now, FTP is, when you start to get into application development, when you're building these larger apps, FTP is not really efficient. It's very slow. You'll probably want to start to learn about Git and using SSH, using the control panel, stuff like that. But that's later on down the road. For now, if you're just building small business websites, HTML, CSS, a little front-end JavaScript, I mean, FTP is fine. So now that you know how to purchase a shared hosting account, create email accounts, create FTP, upload your site. In the next video, we're going to start to learn more about CSS. We're going to start to learn about transitions and stuff. We're going to start to look at the grid system, and then we're going to build some more projects. I'm also going to show you how to deploy to a static host called Netlify a little later on. All right, so I'll see you in the next section. Alright guys, so I decided to add on a little bonus here. I want to actually make the contact form on our website work. Now that we're actually deployed and our shared host has PHP installed, which is a programming language, so we can execute PHP files, and PHP has a very simple mail function that we can use to actually make this form work. So what I'm going to do is have it submit to my brad@edgeledger.net email, which you can see my inbox right here. Now in the lecture files for this section, or this lecture I should say, you're going to have a zip file called contact, and inside that you're going to have two files. And I have that right here. So you're going to have process.php and success.html. So we're just going to move those two files to our project, to our website locally. And I'm going to go back into VS Code with those two added files. And in our index file, we have our form, which doesn't have any attributes. So in order for the form to submit, we want to put an action, and we want it to submit to process.php. It's going to submit to that PHP file. And then we also want to add a method. There's different types of HTTP methods. We have a GET request, which is basically just when the page loads, it's a GET request. But when you submit a form, you want to make a POST request to the server. Okay, so we want to do method post, and we'll save that. And what that's going to do is it's going to submit to this process.php file, which is a very, very simple script. I actually got it from the InMotion hosting documentation. It's very, very simple. You probably want to add more validation and so on if you were gonna, if this was a production site, but I just want to make it work. So I'm just going to go through it, and I know a lot of you probably don't know PHP, but it's just checking to see if the email field is filled in. This post email pertains to our form input right here because the name is email. All right, so this is actually called a super global, and it's looking for the name attribute of email. So if that's filled in, it's going to proceed, and it's going to create some variables. Okay, this variable is the email that we want to submit to, so you would change this to yours, and then we have the rest of these variables just pointing to whatever text is filled in the form fields. So for the name, email, phone, and message, those will get put into variables, which are like placeholders. Then we're going to run a function called mail, which is a PHP function. The first parameter is the email that it's going to send to, which is our admin email here. And then the second is the subject of the email, which will be new form submission. Of course, you can change it if you want. And then the body is going to be the message and the phone number. That's what's going to be in the actual email body. And then from is going to be whatever the user puts in as their email. And then once all that happens, once it sends, we're going to redirect using the header function. So this will redirect us to a file called success.html, which I have right here. So if we look at success.html, it's very simple. We just have the nav bar minus the links and the footer, and then here we just have a thank you message. So I can show you this real quick if I just open with live server. Actually, it opened on the wrong screen. Hold on. Let me just bring it over real quick. All right, so this is what it's going to look like once you submit the form. It's just going to say thank you, and then you can choose to go back to the site. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now there's one other thing we need to change, and it's actually in our JavaScript file, the main.js. Now right here, we're grabbing on to a click event for the navbar links for the smooth scrolling, as well as the class of button. Now the class of button is also on the submit button here. Okay, and inside the JavaScript, what we're saying is to prevent the default behavior of the form, or the button, I should say. And since we have that class on our form button, it won't submit correctly. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of the .btn and the comma. That way the smooth scrolling is only on the nav bar, and the form should be able to submit. So let's save that. And now our website should be all set. We just want to open up FileZilla, go ahead and log in, and we're just going to basically replace the files that are there. So I'm going to drag all of these over. If it asks to overwrite, just say yes. And now it should work. So let's head over to edgeledger.net or whatever website you're using if you're following along. And I'm going to just reload and then fill this out real quick. So I'll say John Doe, email. Let's do johndoe@gmail. Put in a number here, just all fives. And then a message, we'll just say hello world. All right, so now I'm going to click send. Now what happened is it submitted to the process.php file. It ran that, called the mail function, so it should have sent, and then redirected us to success.html. And we can go back if we want. Now I'm going to go to my inbox, and I'm going to reload. And we have an email from john@gmail.com, and you can see the subject is new form submission because that's what we put in the process PHP file, and the body here is whatever we put in the message field and whatever we put in the phone field. Okay, so we now have a working contact form. And I know that PHP is not part of this course, but I wanted to at least have this be a full website where the form actually worked. Okay, so hopefully you guys can appreciate that, and that's it. I'll see you in the next section.